Hi, I'm Charlie Starr. The video you are about to watch is part of my free course, How to Read a Birth Chart. Signing up is easy. Simply subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell, and shoot me an email to the address in the description box below, letting me know you want to be enrolled. I will reply with a welcome email, including the syllabus and other free course materials. Then head on over to my channel page and find the How to Read a Birth Chart free course playlist. Hit play and follow the step-by-step instructions to become a true birth chart master. And now, back to this video. Hey friends, and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Natal Cross, the 4 important aspects in your chart called the Ascendant, the Descendant, the MC, and the IC. Alright guys, so here we have a generic chart. This is actually the chart for today, so you guys can see that we had the Taurus eclipse last night as I'm recording this. A lot of the time these points are not marked on the chart, just the Ascendant and the Midheaven, so I wanted to show that to you guys because that way you guys will learn how to find it for yourself, because this is how you're going to find it. So I'm going to circle the Ascendant, so this AS, it stands for Ascendant, and this is going to be the east side of the sky. So when you're born, this is the sign that was on the horizon, and that marks your first house. That marks the degree of your rising sign, and that is the interpretive and the astronomical significance of that point. Now, if you want to find your descendant, let's look at this. So we have the Ascendant is 5 degrees of Capricorn. So we know the descendant is going to be actually over here at 5 degrees of Cancer. It's not marked. If it is marked, it's usually the letters DC, and that's what it will look like. But and then here we have the AC on the other side. So the descendant is the opposite end of that. So this is the sign that was setting. The interpretive significance of that is that this is the farthest sign away from you. This is going to be how you see other people, how you see people that are different than you. This is the sign of the partners, the 7th house, and the descendant is always going to fall into the 7th house. Okay, so it's right on the cusp of the horizon, you guys, is kind of like this line where anything below the horizon, below the Ascendant and the Descendant, is in darkness. It's in night. And so this has to do, the bottom half of the chart really has to do with like more personal parts of our lives. It talks more in general about where we're coming from. It talks more about the subconscious. It talks more about our internalized processes in our childhood, whereas the top half of the chart talks about more of our extroverted life, our visible life, our social life, our conscious life. So that's just a basic generalization that we can put on the birth chart. So you can see that the things that are in the night sky, which is the bottom half of the chart, that's going to be anything that's below the Ascendant and the Descendant. That is the night sky of that person's birth chart, and everything above that is the day sky. All of the signs up here were visible in the sky when the person was born. Now let's look at the MC. So the MC is right here, this MC. Now this stands for Medium Coli, which is Latin, and that basically stands for middle of the sky in Latin. So I'm just going to write Midheaven because that's really what we call it in order to find the IC. So here's our MC. And then we're going to know that 180 degrees across on the other side, we're going to have the IC is right here. It's going to be at 6 degrees of Taurus. Now the IC stands for Immunum Coli, which means in Latin the bottom of the sky. But we generally just call it the IC. So there's the IC, here's the Midheaven, here is the Ascendant, and here is the Descendant. Well, let's first talk about what the Midheaven and the IC are astronomically. So the Midheaven is going to be the intersection of the ecliptic and the meridian. Another way of putting this is that this is the point where the sun reaches the highest point in the sky that it will reach on that day. So you can actually see that right now it's actually noon. So the sun is actually almost at the MC as we're filming this video. Then you'll know like the person was born during the day, because the sun is in the day part of the chart, and you can actually, without even seeing what time this person was born, if this was a birth chart, you would know that they were born sometime in the middle of the day, like around noon, because the sun is so close to the midheaven. It's so close to the highest point in the sky. That's one thing that you guys can start recognizing right away as you're looking at charts. You'll immediately be able to know if somebody was born during the day, if somebody was born at night, approximately what time they were born based on where is the sun in relation to the midheaven in the birth chart. The midheaven represents the most visible part of somebody's life. And this is also the point at which the sun is going to be like the most exalted. And the sun is not only a very visible part, but it's also the giver and the generous part of somebody's life. So this has two effects. One is going to be this person's public reputation. This is going to be their like status in society. This is what people see of them, what people know of them. But it's also going to be what they are giving back to the world. This is going to talk about somebody's highest aspiration of what they want to accomplish in life, sort of like their dream career. So the midheaven talks about what somebody would be exalted doing and how they are best going to give back to society. The midheaven, therefore, has a lot to do with somebody's career, but it's not necessarily linked to money. It's more linked to what type of work is going to be really fulfilling to this person, as well as how other people perceive them. So then in contrast, the IC, right over here, right? The IC, this is talking about the kind of like the darkest, most unconscious part of somebody's life. In Hellenistic astrology, this is talking, it's usually in the 4th house. For this person, it's in their 5th house, okay? But it's usually like on the cusp of the 3rd and the 4th house, and then the MC is usually in the 10th house. I'll talk in just a second about why that's not true in this person's chart. But it has some of the similar associations. The midheaven has some of the similar associations to the 10th house, and the IC has some similar associations to the 4th house, because it's usually where it's found. So having the IC and the MC not in the 10th and the 4th, it just adds another layer to what we can understand about that person when it comes to these sort of interpretive parts. So the IC will talk about the origin. It will talk about where somebody's from, where somebody's coming from. And it also talks about very deeply rooted and like even unconscious memories that this person has. The IC in Hellenistic astrology is also linked to death. It's considered like, because the midheaven is considered like the most exalted part of a person's chart, then the IC can be seen in the opposite part of this, where it's like seen as a very dark part of somebody's chart that transits to it may be misfortunate or may result in death or loss to the person. Personally, I haven't seen this at all work out this way. Like, I have seen, a lot of transits and different things in the chart interpret towards death, misfortune, loss, but I haven't seen that to be the case with the IC. But to be honest, I generally look at other parts of the chart more. So I definitely do see it as something that talks about where somebody's coming from and maybe some of their unconscious things, but I haven't seen it to be associated with death or misfortune. This person's cross is kind of like skewed. So if they had kind of like a regular cross, would generally look like this, right? And then that would be the MC, the IC, the Ascendant, and the Descendant. This person's, if this was a birth chart, it would be more like this, right? And so you can see the cross is a little bit slanted with the midheaven and the IC being so far over. Why is it that? Well, it's because right now it is November and the sun doesn't get very high in the sky. The 10th house would be the highest that the sun could possibly get, but because we are in a dark season and the sun only comes out for a few hours during the day, it doesn't get as high in the sky as it would, say, like in the summer. So somebody who is born in the summer, and this also of course depends on whether you're born in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, what part of the year this is going to be true for you. But I'm in the northern hemisphere, and so in November the sun is not getting as high. It's pretty dark part, so this is actually the highest point that it's going to get. You could kind of see if somebody's born like in the northern hemisphere and they have their midheaven and like right there, then they're probably born in the summer because it's at the highest possible point. I hope that makes sense. And then the opposite, of course, is true just for the IC. It's just going to be 180 degrees away from the midheaven. All right, so now that you understand these 4 main reference points in the birth chart, we're going to start filling them in by learning each of the houses. But before we do that, we're going to learn how to calculate the ascended sign and what to do if you don't know what time you were born. Stick with me. Thanks for watching.